This is Trending Daily, and I'm Makhdoom Shahabuddin. Today, the world is watching a rapidly shifting global landscape, one where tensions between major powers are no longer confined to isolated regions, but are spilling over into energy markets, trade corridors, and global security calculations. At the center of this growing uncertainty, one country is being discussed more frequently in diplomatic circles than ever before: Pakistan. This is not accidental. This is the result of positioning, timing, and most importantly, trust. As tensions continue between the United States and Iran, along with their broader regional alignments, Pakistan is increasingly emerging as a central player in managing risk, facilitating communication, and quietly supporting de escalation efforts. What makes this development significant is not just geography, although geography plays a critical role too. Pakistan sits at a strategic crossroads linking South Asia, the Middle East, and Central Asia. But geography alone does not create diplomatic relevance. Trust does. And Pakistan at this moment holds a rare diplomatic advantage. It maintains working relations with Washington. It has sustained engagement with Tehran. And it holds deep economic and security ties with Gulf countries, particularly Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates. This balance is not common. In a world increasingly divided into blocs, very few countries can engage across competing alliances without being perceived as biased. Yet Pakistan has managed to do exactly that, positioning itself not as a partisan actor, but as a communication bridge. And that is where its real strength lies. In recent weeks, diplomatic activity across the region has intensified significantly. Much of it is not visible in headlines. It is happening behind closed doors, in private meetings, informal exchanges, and carefully managed back-channel communications. The objective is clear: prevent escalation. Because any direct confrontation in the Middle East today would not remain limited to one region. It would have immediate consequences for global oil supplies, disrupt key maritime trade routes, and create economic shockwaves felt across continents. Pakistan understands this reality. And that is why its approach has been consistent, emphasizing dialogue over confrontation and political solutions over military escalation. This is not a new policy direction. It reflects a long-standing principle in Pakistan's foreign policy: maintaining balanced relations with multiple sides while avoiding rigid alignment that could reduce diplomatic flexibility. This strategy is now paying dividends. Analysts describe Pakistan's current role not as a formal mediator in a declared negotiation process, but as something equally important: an informal bridge, a channel through which messages can pass, a platform where concerns can be shared, a space where ideas can be tested without public pressure. In times of crisis, this kind of quiet diplomacy often becomes the difference between escalation and containment. Because when direct communication breaks down, misunderstandings increase. And when misunderstandings increase, so does the risk of conflict. Pakistan's role helps reduce that risk. But this position is not without challenges. While Pakistan is expanding its diplomatic relevance externally, it is also navigating internal pressures. Economic stability remains a major concern. As an energy importing country, Pakistan is directly exposed to fluctuations in global oil prices. Any escalation in the Gulf region can immediately increase fuel costs, disrupt supply chains, and add pressure to inflation. This is not theoretical. This is immediate. And this is why Pakistan's call for regional stability is not just diplomatic, it is economic. At the same time, security dynamics add another layer of complexity. Pakistan has strengthened cooperation with Gulf partners, including recent developments in defense coordination and strategic support frameworks. These partnerships enhance regional alignment, but they also require careful balance to ensure that relations with other regional players remain stable. This is where diplomatic skill becomes critical. Maintaining trust across multiple sides is not static achievement. It is a continuous process. It requires constant engagement, careful measuring, and the ability to adapt to rapidly changing situations. International observers recognize this. They point out that Pakistan's credibility comes from its ability to speak with different sides without appearing fully aligned to any single bloc. This neutrality, whether formal or informal, is what allows Pakistan to operate in spaces where others cannot. But neutrality is not easy to maintain, especially in a crisis environment where pressures to take sides can increase very quickly. The global energy dimension further complicates this situation. Markets today are extremely sensitive. Any instability in the Gulf region, whether in shipping lanes, production facilities, or transit routes, immediately affects global prices. These changes ripple outward, impacting economies far beyond the region. For Pakistan, this creates urgency. Stability is not just desirable, it is necessary. And this urgency is reflected in Pakistan's diplomatic messaging. Sources indicate that Islamabad has consistently encouraged all parties involved in regional tensions to return to dialogue, to exercise restraint, and to avoid actions that could widen the conflict. This includes support for multilateral communication frameworks and regional engagement mechanisms focused on both security and economic stability. At the same time, there is an important shift happening domestically. Public discourse in Pakistan is increasingly recognizing the connection between global instability and everyday life. Rising fuel prices, inflation, employment concerns, these are no longer abstract issues. They are directly linked to what happens in global conflict zones. This awareness is shaping national priorities. There is a growing emphasis on diplomatic strength, on preventing crises rather than reacting to them. And in this context, Pakistan's current role becomes even more significant because it is not just about influence abroad, it is about stability at home. As the situation continues to evolve, Pakistan's ability to maintain its position will depend on several factors. Can it continue to balance relationships across competing alliances? Can it sustain trust in an environment of rising suspicion? Can it protect its economic and security interests while engaging in global diplomacy? These are not simple questions, but they define the road ahead. For now, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. Pakistan is no longer on the sidelines of global crisis management. It is not just observing events, it is participating, it is connecting, and increasingly, it is shaping outcomes. In a divided world, the ability to act as a bridge is one of the most valuable roles a country can ever play. And today, that is exactly the role Pakistan is stepping into. A connector in a fragmented system, a stabilizer in a volatile environment, a voice for dialogue in a time of rising tension. And as global pressures continue to build, that role will only become more important. You were watching Trending Daily. This is your host, Makhdoom Shahabuddin. See you in the next episode. Pakistan Zindabad.